Nobody does fall better than Whole Foods Market. The Spice Up Autumn event is happening now. Save on animal welfare certified beef top sirloin steak, perfect with gravy for a comforting meal. Find savings on organic Honeycrisp apples and organic pears. Then visit the bakery department for their limited time pumpkin butter chai cake. And while you can, level up your fridge with fall wine, beers, and ciders. Spice Up Autumn at Whole Foods Market. Terms apply. Must be 21 plus. Please drink responsibly.
Welcome back to the Mediocre Alaskan Podcast. Today I got Clint Whitney on here from South Dakota. He is the host of the Western Hunting Hub podcast, who just broke over the 100 episode mark. And congratulations, man. Just before you came on here, you found out that you're having your second boy. Congratulations, man.
Yeah, thanks. Whitley, the last name, which
Whitley.
Is totally fine. Yeah,
what did I say?
No big deal. Whitney.
Oh, jeez.
No,
Whitley.
it's all good.
Sorry about that.
It doesn't matter.
I'm an English teacher, so that's what happens. My specialty is irony.
Oh yeah.
Not being able to read correctly. But maybe I'll start with the podcast a little bit here. You've been going for a little while here. You're over the 100 episode mark. How's that been? The podcasting experience?
Yeah, that was my COVID project. Went in early March, kind of somewhere in there. Really always thought, man, I like listening to these. And months before that, 6, 8, 10 months before that, I thought, man, I'd love to do one of these for work. So I was doing outdoor ed in the school district and do something. And there was a lot of community-based stuff. I thought, yeah, this would be a great learning platform to share all kinds of different things with what we're doing. And then I kind of COVID hit, and I thought, well, I don't want people telling me what I'm going to do, so why don't I just do this on my own? That was just kind of that moment when found the time, I remember putting in a full week's work, just doing research and figuring it all out and everything. So, that's been a fun deal. The reason I run the Western Hunting Hub podcast, which started off as Colorado Hunting Hub, and based in Colorado, because that's where I was living. And long story short, here I am in Western South Dakota. But I'm an educator and was in a school district, and I work for a state agency doing education. And it was just totally my platform to just keep sharing things about hunting and talking hunting, and yet another avenue to incorporate hunting in my everyday. So my wife appreciates that very much.
Yeah, it can seem like the podcast and the content world is saturated, and it is, but everybody does have a unique story, and so it's cool to see people who have stuck with it. Sometimes life gets in the way, and there are a couple times along my journey where I just thought, is it even worth it? Do I have anything more to say? Does anybody even really care? Is anybody listening? But it's cool to stick with it and hone in, get better, and meet new people. It's pretty fun.
Oh yeah, the networking is fun. The networking is really fun. That's one of the big reasons why I do it. The random little emails you get in from people, that's fun. I love giving away a couple of things here and there. I got a bow that we're giving away here soon. And there's my audience is small, and it's fine. I don't really care. There's a certain group that wants to listen to me. It's like finding a friend. You don't like everybody, and you find those people that you connect with, and you like listening to them. So it's been a fun little adventure, and been doing that for, I guess we're going on a year and a half now.
Nice. Talk about your it's a Hoyt bow that you're giving away. Yeah.
So with that 100th episode, wanted to actually, my last job, I bought this bow for a 3D shoot through the school district that I was going to put on for the community, and ended up getting canceled because of COVID. So it was sitting in my old gear room. So I contacted the old superintendent and said, hey, this bow's sitting there. It's just rotting in there, getting older and worth less and less. So let me buy that from you. So I bought it from him and said, hey, I'll give this away to someone, and maybe we'll use that as a bit of almost like a fundraiser for the yearly expenses that podcasting comes with. So went and got it's a Hoyt Axius it's pretty limited to a 28 to 30 inch draw unless you get the different modules for it. 60 to 70 pound bow. It's right hand, Kuiu camo. So that's a 2019 bow. And so I'm just, to win the bow, is I'm just doing $20 entries for it. So as many entries as you want. And that is doing PayPal and Venmo. So at Clint Whitley is the Venmo, and PayPal is clint.a.whitley@gmail.com. And right now, I've got like 8 people in it. So your odds are good.
Nice.
Odds are
Excellent.
pretty good. So I don't really like asking for money for people. So I haven't really been pushing it. I know there's a few people holding out for a while. So yeah, my giveaways are pretty small usually.
Oh, that's cool. That's great. Great cause and sweet. That's awesome. I might edit out the point that only 8 people have signed up, so that way I can better my odds.
Yeah,
And get my wife a new bow.
Yeah, and I've told people, like, even if the bow doesn't fit you, just take it into the bow shop. Say, hey, here's a brand new bow. Give me a credit for that one.
Yeah, that's sweet. So you mentioned that podcast is something that's been a lot of fun, and you like doing it. On one of your previous episodes, you were talking about how at one point in your life you were an admin on a hunting page. Was that a Facebook forum?
Yeah, so I Hunt Colorado is a pretty large Facebook group. Biggest Facebook group in Colorado. I think they have probably 50,000 followers or so. So pretty big, and anyone in Colorado that's on social media and involved in hunting really kind of likes to go there just to see what's going on, ask questions, connect, that sort of thing, which is all wonderful and great. But man, those big pages have their negative sides, and being an admin on that, I got kind of added in there, reaching out to them because I said, hey, I'm going to start this podcast. I thought, how about I reach out to somebody who's got a bigger reach than what I would end up with? And so I wanted to partner with them, and it was called Colorado Hunting Hub. I Hunt Colorado, supported by I Hunt Colorado. So I had that little deal with them, and I posted all my episodes on that Facebook, but honestly, I don't know if that audience listened to podcasts. It just didn't really take off for me, and early in podcasting it was fine, so I kind of ended up dropping it, and I didn't really like editing a Facebook page or being involved in any of that whatsoever. That was not monitoring comments, booting people, having reasons for booting people, all that stuff, and seeing the negativity. It was not what I was about. That didn't interest me at all.
No, I can't imagine that would be any fun whatsoever. It can be a great forum to be able to share stuff and get ideas. And some people say, hey, I'm looking at doing this. Am I missing anything? So someone can fill in a gap and say, hey, think about this. Rather than just like, hey, I booked tickets. Where should I hunt? What should I do? What do I need? It's like, come on. So then that leads some people to talk trash about this person from wherever coming up here. And we see it in Southeast Alaska. People want to come up here and shoot black-tailed deer. And you have some people who have everything figured out. They've chartered. They're playing. They're going into this area, and they're asking about boots or rain gear or something like that. And then other people who are like, hey, I bought my tickets. I'm flying in. Where should I go? And then people get really, really nasty. And then other people just go in there and lob grenades of just dissent and get real angry. And then it gets super political and stuff. Man, this could be a great informative way to connect with people and get information. But it's turned into just this dumpster fire.
Yeah. And my big thing, and I've mentioned it in episodes before, is that we are 6% of the nation, hunters or so, roughly. That's a totally rough stat, but that's the number I've heard before. Say 6% of the nation hunters. Say you got the other end of that, 6% anti-hunters, or maybe even go higher, 10%. Everyone else is right in between. So if you got a divided 6% of hunters, you're down to 3%, or 2%, 2%, 2%, because you got 3 different kind of hunters. You're really limiting yourself to what your community can do for each other. So that was my big deal with that. I get to interact with all kinds of hunters. I interact with hunters every single day at my job. interact with hunters through the podcast and just people I surround myself with. And I get to see all the different styles of hunters, and it's really interesting to see that new face of hunters coming in, the old timers, the old school South Dakota boys, as far the ranchers going out hunting, totally different than the new age hunter that's coming up and is loaded with millennials and lots of women and local boars and the like. So
Yeah.
It's interesting to see.
Yeah, that's such there's an astonishing lack of understanding on the part of the anti-hunters, and it's stoked by people who have, oversimplified, like Trevor Noah and his, anti-hunting type stuff where he makes fun of people, and that plays well to the crowd. And if the crowd doesn't know anything different about what hunting actually is, and doesn't talk about the healthy bonds between families, the purpose that people feel when they're going out, and up here it's a connecting point with students, because I got students that hunt, and they talk about how they did over the weekend, just another connecting point. So this kid who doesn't necessarily like English, they're in my English class or in my journalism class, and we can talk about hunting. So there's that trust, there's that connection, and it just makes a huge difference. And you have someone, they're exercising, they're going out, and if beef is so bad and it pollutes and the methane, then we need alternatives. Well, a great alternative to beef is deer and elk and game animals. And if we're talking about healthy living, and if illness and if being unhealthy is also bad for the environment, then there should be people should be willing to say, oh, hunting actually is a pretty good alternative, and it's kind of a green type thing, but it just doesn't get packaged that way. And I don't think we always do a great job as hunters providing people with good quality examples of what it can be. We the worst of us is often used as the example that becomes the stereotype, and the thought is that that's the norm, and that really is hurtful to the people who were undecided in the middle, like you said, who they were indifferent about it. We could have got them to the point where they don't want to hunt, but they at least get it, and so they're not going to be antagonistic.
Yeah, I'm all about creating advocates for what you're doing, and there's not enough deer and elk in the woods and for everyone to hunt. So as long as they can see it, be okay with it, and vote the right way if it comes to vote, then great. That's wonderful.
After years of fine print contracts and getting ripped off by big wireless providers, if we've learned anything, it's that there's always a catch. So when I first heard that Mint Mobile offers premium wireless starting at just $15 a month, I thought, what's the catch? But after talking to them and using their service, it all made sense. There isn't one. Mint Mobile's secret sauce is that they're the first company to sell wireless service online only. They cut out the cost of retail stores and pass those sweet savings directly to you. For anyone who hates their phone bill, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. I was hesitant about having to get a new phone and a new phone number, but with Mint, you can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone and your same phone number along with all of your existing contacts. Mint Mobile gives you the best rate whether you're buying for one or for a family, and at Mint, families start at 2 lines. All plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and to get the plans shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/waypoint. That is mintmobile.com/waypoint. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/waypoint.
What is your favorite thing to hunt?
Oh man, that's a hard question. It's definitely an ungulate of some sort. It's not. I'm not a bird hunter. I have a new puppy, so I'm really trying to do that one right and get her out in the field. But it used to be elk hunting. I used to stay elk hunting, and I love it so much. But there's something about mule deer hunting in the rut that's just amazing, and the whitetail hunting out here in western South Dakota is kind of like mule deer hunting. It's very similar. It's not whitetail hunting in a tree stand in Iowa. It's totally different. It's mountain whitetail, so it's very similar. But I'd have to say probably mule deer in the rut is probably one of my favorite things. I watched a couple of bucks 2 days ago that they're so cool. I was stalking in on them with my bow. One was this giant 2-point, just an old buck, huge body on him, and another one had didn't have deep forks, but he was just that standard 4-point muley, and they were just circling each other. Just kind of, it's early on we're getting a lot of pre-rut activity, coming close to the rut pretty hard, and they're circling each other. They raked every tree that they could find, and I would love to know if somebody knows the answer to this, but they were making this almost like wheezing, one of them, making a wheezing, hissing, kind of rattling noise, and I watched them at 100 yards do this, where they were making that noise at the other one, and he's all puffed up. It was a rutting noise of some sort. I don't know what he was telling the other buck, but it was something that was not a grunt. It was not I don't know what it was, but I heard it twice. I watched him do it twice, and snuck into about 100 yards, and they kind of, since they were circling, there was no clear direction which way they were going, and ended up, they just kind of winded me and just kind of hopped away. Never saw him again. So it was close. That was really close. I need another 20 yards.
What's the difference between hunting mule deer in the rut and opposed to the rest of the season? I've done a couple mule deer hunts in Wyoming. My wife got a really nice mule deer this last year in Wyoming. What's the difference in rut? Is it just how they move? Are they in different groups? Like, is there a mule deer call that you can do, or what's the difference?
I've heard of guys using some calls and things, but they don't respond quite as well as whitetails do. But it's the fact that you can hunt like all day long, and they're moving, and hunting elk is in the rut is obviously one of my other favorite things to do. But there's also a really frustrating aspect that comes to elk hunting. Mule deer seems to be, yes, difficult, but I like that open country where you can spot them, and it's I don't know, it's really hard to describe, but of why I like that so much. But that difference in the rut versus the not in the rut is that you get to hunt so much longer. Those bucks that are normally hanging out in one little spot and hiding from you, they're out. They're moving does. They're pushing does. Seeing that rut activity was just so cool, and then being able to try to sneak in on that was something else. So I'm definitely determined the being able to see animals from a distance and putting a spot and a stalk in on them is one of my favorite things to do.
Nice. And then what's the difference between like mule deer hunting and whitetail? My wife also had a whitetail tag, and so we were looking at different areas, and it seemed like just the river bottoms were good areas to find whitetail. But then you transition 100, 200 yards from that, and then all of a sudden you're in mule deer territory. So is it as simple as river bottom versus not? What are some terrain differences? And does that vary? Because Wyoming could be different than Colorado, which is different than South Dakota.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and then I'm headed down to Arizona in January, and their mule deer are down low, their coos deer are up high. So it's that's probably a whole different situation. But I would say in the typical western state, western South Dakota, Wyoming, Colorado, and Montana, a little further west, these mountain whitetail where you do find whitetail. I know Idaho's got a bunch of whitetail. And then out in the prairie too, Colorado, prairies of Montana and Wyoming, there is those little pockets. But when I was sneaking up on those two bucks, I had a little whitetail go jump out of the junipers and take off. So that was kind of an oddity. You get to looking at some country and saying, this is muley country. That's whitetail country. And the fact that I was right on a major river system, they were pretty close and interacting with each other pretty close. So those really breaking the kind of the river breaks, that's really definitely that mule deer country, and down the river bottoms is definitely that whitetail country. And you get out in the prairie where there's rolling hills and everything like that, and not a lot of egg fields, mule deer country. You get some agricultural fields, then you're looking at a lot of whitetail country. But you'll randomly find some whitetail hanging out in what you think is mule deer country. What we found is that those whitetails definitely are a little more aggressive. So aggressive in the way that they'll kind of push out the mule deer, and so they'll be a little bit more dominating and kind of take over areas. So that's why landowners and people that really want to have those mule deer around try and harvest as many whitetails as they can. So yeah, there is just a touch of difference in the kind of the look of where those deer are at, for sure.
Mm-hmm. And what's kind of the main difference when like you hunt them? What do you is it more difficult to glass the whitetails? So, or what does that look like as far as hunting them?
So I live in Rapid City, South Dakota. It's kind of like a miniature Denver if it were a Denver in the 80s or 90s. It's not the Denver of today.
Yeah.
And what they're like there, it's kind of that older school, very conservative town, and a lot of like-minded people. So there's a couple of different terrains. Hunting the whitetails in the Black Hills of South Dakota is far different than hunting the whitetails out in the prairie, but definitely just the same kind of deal. Looking for travel routes, sitting on a high point and glassing those. I don't think there's really any crazy differences in being able to locate, other than maybe some of their bedding areas. I know in those breaks you're going to find those mule deer hanging out underneath the cedars where they're going to bed. Maybe a whitetail might be comfortable in some tall grass and a fence line. So that's pretty common. In these western whitetails, I could get reamed for this, but I don't think there's honestly that much difference in how I'd be hunting these whitetail versus mule deer, other than the country that I'm in. That would be the main thing, is looking at where whatever my tag is. If it's a whitetail tag or what we call an any deer tag. If you have an any deer, it's a whitetail or mule deer. Mm-hmm. So I kind of hunt them that same sort of way. I'm sitting somewhere in the morning looking for them, and maybe that's a little travel route. Maybe I can get on that. We've got our opening West River deer. That's our main season coming up here, rifle season this weekend. And I've got a spot right along a small little creek that has a little irrigation pivot, a nice alfalfa field sitting there. So I'm gonna sit right on that. And I know as other deer hunters are around, they'll be running those river systems, running those field edges, running the little low points, and they'll be out in that field in the morning. So yeah, it doesn't. I know there's mule deer and whitetail in that country, and I only have a whitetail tag, but I'd probably hunt them about the same way.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned western whitetail. Where's that kind of divider? Because when I look at whitetail, and like that's the deer that's considered like America's deer, because so much more of the population that is a hunter, you're more than likely going to be hunting whitetail deer rather than the mule deer or blacktail. And that might be changing a little bit now, but the further east you get, the more I think of kind of some nasty, a lot of sticker type whitetail type stuff, and then you get further west and you get kind of the smaller, well, not smaller, but like some really nice but more symmetrical and less extra stuff going on there. Where is kind of that divider of western versus eastern whitetail, and is that like a conflict type thing within the whitetail group if you're a western whitetail hunter versus an eastern whitetail hunter?
I don't think it's talked about, honestly. I don't know if that's a. I think the whitetail hunters in the east they outnumber all the whitetail hunters that are out in the west, and so we're just another opportunity to hunt whitetails. But if you really want to go find a big whitetail, you got to head to farmland, and I definitely think farmland is probably where you're going to find that maybe division of that style of hunting, because I could go to a cornfield here south of me a little ways and I can hunt them that way. Absolutely. There's that opportunity of sitting in a tree stand on a cornfield edge with a little tree belt. It'd be that same sort of deal, but I don't think there's really any division in that. I've never really heard that, and it's just you think Iowa and Illinois and Ohio, big whitetails sitting in a tree stand all along, spray down the scent killer, and away you go. But I think we just approach it just a little differently here. As they live in a different terrain.
Yeah.
So mule deer. There's mule deer in both biomes, and you just hunt them. It's just touch different. That's all. So,
yeah,
not too different.
I should probably know better because I'm an Alaskan and I'm totally used to people overgeneralizing or making stereotypes or wondering if things are true. But I don't know. I think from reading Field and Stream magazine, you see whitetail hunting and there's all these. It's just cornfield, and it's either how to manage your private land and get the peas or whatever growing there so that you got some good stuff in there, good nutrients to grow them big, and then as I started to hunt more in the West, and it seemed like, man, there's some decent whitetail type opportunities. Is this like an unsung thing? Is it not talked about? And what is the dynamic here? But
yeah, we are going to get those 180, 190 inch, 200 inch whitetail. The next state record or world record is not coming out of Wyoming, or Montana. I don't think.
Yeah.
I definitely going to be that diet related piece, and as well as those genetics and things. So I just don't know. Yeah, it's just not comparing the same thing.
Yeah, I definitely would like to get a whitetail at some point, go on one of those hunts, and it seems to me like Kansas seems like a legit state to go do it. Like you said, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio definitely seem like legit full on, but it seems a little bit too daunting. And because I don't have property or access to someone's farm, or there's just very small corridors of public land, and Southeast Alaska, everything is open. You don't have to worry about private versus public. And I only got onX recently because it didn't seem like there was any need to have any sort of know whose land I'm on, but I ended up getting it. It ends up being, there's a lot more features to it, which is good. But it'd be sweet to go down there, and if you don't really know any better, it can end up being an advantage to you because you're not worried about size, and you're not like, what is a huge buck? I don't know. So you're not really worried about inches necessarily. You just want a good experience and get a quality animal, and you're fine with that. You're not going to be disappointed if you've not your tag.
Yeah, absolutely. And the taste of these whitetails are pretty good. They're pretty darn good. I've had some opportunities, maybe shoot a doe versus a mule deer versus a whitetail, and looking at that. And if I'm really wanting some quality table fare, it's going to be the whitetail.
Okay, interesting. Good to know. We've had some pretty good. Let's see. My wife's got 3 mule deer, and I got 1. And they've all been pretty good. The 2 ones that we got 2 years ago were both fairly young, and so they tasted pretty good. We got them tested for CWD, and they didn't have it, which was good. And they taste pretty good. I was a little worried, and maybe that's why I thought it tasted pretty good, because I was expecting it to smell like, or to taste like the plains, like it was, sagebrush and buffalo poop or something like that. Totally stereotypical. Yeah. But, the blacktail up here, they're so great tasting, especially when they're in the alpine eating that lush vegetation. And so it's such a great flavor.
Yeah.
But I was happy with the way they tasted.
Yeah, no, I have no problem eating a mule deer whatsoever. They're delicious. It's just if I had to choose, my top is probably axis deer, and I think whitetail is right below that, and elk is below that, mule deer is below that, and antelope is. Oh shoot! Then there's bear too. I don't know.
It's hard to rank, man. Like anything, like even experiences. Like I talk about how much fun it is to catch a trout on a fly rod and on dry fly, and then it's like, well, isn't a king salmon better? Like, well, yeah, you know, you can catch a 50-pound king salmon. That's an unbelievable experience, but it's so different because it's just brute force and it's a battle. Whereas, you know, a 14-inch trout on a dry fly, you see it come up and it's a small little water and you presented the fly well and it comes up and takes it and it's such a cool experience, but it's not the battle, angry brutality of a king salmon fight. You just can't compare them. It's fun to talk about a little bit, but to really get down to it and be pinned to a ranking, it's probably not necessary.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So what about the axis deer? Did you do one of those like archery hunts for axis deer in Hawaii?
No. I was just one of the last episodes was with Danny Bolton, who is in Hawaii, and we kind of talked about it. But I just connected with him, and not planning on going down there anytime soon. That's definitely a financial thing. That's not going to happen for a long time. And even if we do go to Hawaii, I don't know if my wife's going to say, yeah, you go hunting. No, we're doing other stuff. But no, there's axis deer in Texas. And, my buddy did go down to Hawaii last year, and he shot an axis. So I had some backstrap one day at his house. And, my buddy down in Texas, he's shot some and eating them there. So got a little bit of the taste. Never even seen one on the ground, or let alone hunted them.
You'll probably put that on the radar, though, man. I see some cool pictures. It looks like a fun experience. There's a lot more things on above that, but I hear that they're delicious. But I was kind of surprised that you put them above elk. I hadn't really heard that elk was below. I love the taste of elk. It's unbelievable. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's good. One thing I found with elk is, and I think my wife has found the same thing. If I were to take just a piece of the hind quarter, let's leave tenderloins backstrap out of it, and make up a stew with it of some sort, it tastes to me like it just has just a little stronger flavor, and it's great, and I love it, but it's just a little stronger flavor, and I've cooked a few up where it's like, that's got a little stronger smell to it also. And where that whitetail or antelope is a little bit milder. And there's a lot of people that'll put antelope on the absolute bottom of that list. And I got reasons for that too. But if that's treated well, taken care of well, and not drug through a prairie for half a mile and throw in the back of the truck and drive across the state, and it's sitting in 65-degree weather for 3 hours. Mm-hmm. There's a big difference between that meat and something that was quartered right away, cooled down, thrown in the cooler, and taken home, taken care of right away. I think that's really, really important for antelope.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean that just because it's ranked 5th doesn't mean it's bad. It's not from good to bad. It's like, these are all great options. If you have some, sure, I'll take some. But it's interesting to see, especially with things that you haven't had yet. It kind of makes the hunt more, I guess, exciting. Maybe some people overlook antelope because it is talked about and it's kind of it's not great. These other animals are better. If word gets out that they are pretty delicious, and I think they're pretty delicious. Because of the scarcity, Southeast Alaska, I don't get to hunt antelope all the time, so I want that experience, and also has something that I can't have all the time. It's going to probably taste a lot better to me.
Yeah, there's people that like pepperoni pizza and some like sausage. It's totally different. But bear too, and I got some bear sausage. That's some of my favorite. That's absolutely some of my favorite for bear sausage. So that's what I have.
Where'd you get that?
That was in Colorado this year, off of my elk carcass. The bear visited like days later, so that was a nice little quick fill the bear tag too.
Perfect. You mentioned sausage and pepperoni. My wife and I have been experimenting with summer sausage, with pepperoni sticks, with regular sausage. What's kind of your go-to when it comes to processing this stuff, or do you mostly kind of do a steak, ground, roast type program?
I do a lot of ground and leave my steaks to my back straps, my tenderloins, and then I am making that Thanksgiving meal this year is some elk tenderloin Wellington. This is what we're going to cook.
Okay.
So I'm going to give that a shot. But then I'll leave a few of those bigger hunks of meat off to make jerky, or we don't eat a lot of stews. We don't eat a lot of those big chunks or small little chunks of it. So just a ton of ground meat, or I'll take a big piece. Like I took the whole back quarter of my bear, and so I got that whole ham that I'm gonna try and smoke one day. And the other fun thing I like to do is with a big hunk of hind quarter is smoke it and slice it for sandwich meat. That's been well worth. If you got a lot of meat, and you can give up some grind, you can give up some steaks. Doing some sandwich meat that's well worth it.
Nice,
really well worth it. A simple slicer and a Traeger can go a long ways.
You say a Traeger?
Yeah.
Do you have like the Traeger, or like a different brand of some pellet grill that does the same thing?
Nobody does fall better than Whole Foods Market. The Spice Up Autumn event is happening now. Save on animal welfare certified beef top sirloin steak, perfect with gravy for a comforting meal. Find savings on organic Honeycrisp apples and organic pears. Then visit the bakery department for their limited time pumpkin butter chai cake. And while you can, level up your fridge with fall wine, beers, and ciders. Spice Up Autumn at Whole Foods Market. Terms apply. Must be 21 plus. Please drink responsibly.
I have a Traeger.
Okay. I have a couple buddies who refer to their grill as a Traeger, even though it's a different brand. It's like a smokehouse or something like that. And they're still like the comparable in price. It's almost like Traeger has become like Google.
The Kleenex of tissues.
Exactly. It's like you don't mean search, you mean Google. Like Google became the verb, and it just kind of took over. It's now what you're doing. And the Traeger is like, that means that that is the pellet grill. There's only one, but that's kind of funny. But yeah, the Kleenex too, yeah.
Yeah,
it's fine.
No, for sure. No, the bear sausage. My buddy's got a recipe with some sage and some maple syrup. That right there. If you want to make some sausage, whatever the seasonings are, some cloves and red pepper flakes or whatever. Maple syrup is kind of that really good topper to make it taste like that.
Yeah,
tastes like the breakfast time.
Maple syrup is kind of hit and miss with me. There are some mixes where you get a little maple in there, and it's okay if it's it's in there, but it's not one of the main ingredients. Sometimes I've gotten a maple mix that was just so absolutely drenched, it seemed like, in maple flavoring. It kind of off-putting, and it was weird, and so
it's too much.
Didn't taste like meat. It tasted like it was supposed to be a pancake or something. So it was kind of weird, but
this is like a squirt for 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds, a couple pounds.
Yeah. Do you have a go-to mix? Do you make your own, or is it like Lem or the Cabela's brand or anything like that?
Sorry, say that again.
Do you have
cut out real quick?
Do you have a go-to mix, or do you make your own?
No, I definitely make my own. I'm a cheapskate. I don't like to go out and buy too terrible much if I have to. Just looking up different recipes and mixing it and trying it. So that's what always run out of the seasonings. That's always the tricky thing. The limiting factor is how much sage you have or cumin or something like that, because you find out it takes a whole jar of cumin or something random in your pantry, and like never thought I'd run out of that, and I need the big jar of that. So
Yeah.
I'm always looking for the whatever some guys found is like the best. This is great, love this, so I'm gonna find that recipe.
Yeah, I think once you've sampled it, it makes a big deal too. So you sample this, you like this, here are the ingredients, and then you can tweak as necessary, and that's kind of nice. But just buying a ton of ingredients and having them all there, you better hope that it's going to work out right. You have some experience or some sort of evidence that this is going to culminate in something good. Otherwise, you got a lot of extra material.
Yeah, one thing I found is you can learn a lot about the meat that you're cooking by having a frying pan right there ready to roll. Even while you're processing, cutting off a little hunk and finding out that the top round is way tougher than the bottom round. And the eye of the round tastes way better than the, I don't know, whatever. But each one of those little cuts is totally different. And even though doesn't have any fat in it, and it's nice and lean, no tendons, any of that, maybe that shouldn't be a steak, because it's still right along that bone and a little tougher. So that's a better jerky. That top round is a good jerky cut, or bottom round. Man, I gotta look at my chart every time, I can't remember. But or I can look at that quarter and say, yep, that one's stew, that one is jerky, that one is a steak. So, and then cutting off a little hunk, throwing it in the fry pan with just some salt and pepper, so you get the full taste of it, and say, oh, that's kind of a little tough, or that's got a little different flavor than this over here. That's going to be a good steak. This is not. And I think if you have some patience in the processing, you can really play with that. Or when I'm doing sausage, it's figuring out fat content, and do 10% first with, or I did 0% with bear. So actually, some of that didn't even need any sausage or pork trimmings added to it. And so you just kind of fry up a little bit, taste that. I'm going to try 10%. And that was good. So this is kind of the same thing, mixing up sausage with deer and elk, of go 20, 30%, maybe 40% if I really wanted it super fatty.
Nice.
Yeah.
What about the rest of your family really like it, or is it mostly you that eats that?
It's me and my kid. Yeah, my wife is a small town city girl that has a total mental block when it comes to eating wild game. It's not her thing. She's even though there's a lot of, I've got 8 deer tags this month to fill, and I can't eat 8 deer.
Yeah.
But I love to share, and I got plenty of family, friends, and places that's going to go to. But when we make, what did we make the other night? Made some tacos. I made some elk tacos. She has some beef tacos. Not my favorite, but to eat that beef. But she just didn't grow up on it. She had no idea, never had it. So there's always that mental block of it just wasn't in a store, and it's something different. And that's just how she knows it was a total mental thing. And she said, raise our kids on wild game. She's like, feed them wild game. I just can't do it. So she totally loves that I do that. She has no issue with it. She might not love that I pressure her to try it here and there too much. But my 3-year-old, he loves it. We had some antelope sirloin the other day, and he asked for some more, and he's not a big eater. He just can't eat a ton. So he wanted a bunch more. And mountain goat, I don't know what mountain goat tastes like up there compared to down here, but I loved it.
That's awesome. It's real good.
I loved mountain goat. He was the first 3, or he was 2 at the time, and 1.5, 2, somewhere in there. He was the first one to try it. And we were always eating mountain goat after that.
Yeah, that's nice. Some of it, it's if someone has tasted meat and they equate beef to being what meat should taste like, they're kind of at a disadvantage. And also, people who have sophisticated palates or whatever, they taste certain things a little bit more than others. Like someone will drink a beer and like, oh, I taste chocolate. chocolate. What are you talking about? Like, this is beer. Like, it tastes different, but maybe I'm unrefined, and so I don't taste those specific things. Or, people who are wine connoisseurs can taste hints of this, or, oh, it's earthy in this, or I can taste whatever. I think, well, that's crazy. So if someone is, maybe susceptible or a little bit more, can taste that gaminess a little bit more, and someone would say, I don't think it's gamey at all. It might be a little bit gamey, and then to that person who, whatever that taste just resonates a little bit more, and it can taste different. So, that's the way it is.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested to see what my boy, as he grows up, and soon to be boys, as they grow up eating a lot of wild game, what their perception is later on. Because I know how to cook it versus I remember not liking meat too much growing up. Burgers were not my favorite thing because they were cooked all the way through. Yeah, and they were kind of dry. That's how my parents or my mom liked well done burgers. I hate well done burgers. There's no moisture in them. And steaks the same way. So we didn't have a grinders to have growing up, so everything was steaks or stir fry. There wasn't a whole lot of variable pieces to that, and so that was kind of not something growing up that I looked forward to our fried chops that we would make. I remember Dad would dip them in some flour and fry them, and that was that one meal that we had consistently, but nothing that really stood out and said, oh, I love a good burger. Well, now my absolute favorite burger to have is a deer, elk, or antelope burger.
Oh, yeah.
Smoked with a little barbecue sauce and some cheese and a little bit of Weber seasoning on it.
There you go. Yeah, the same thing happens up here with fish. If you don't prepare it correctly, you're probably not going to like it. People who don't really know what to do, if you don't really like the taste of fish and all you've heard about how to prepare a fish is to cook it on a cedar plank with a little bit of lemon pepper, well, you're going to taste the fish if you do that, because the cedar plank offers a little hint of potential flavor, but it's not like a seasoning. And if you just put a little bit of lemon pepper on it, you're going to be tasting a little bit of lemon pepper and then fish. It's just not going to be sustainable. You're not going to, if you're not a big fan of fish, you can get some fresh fish and it might taste better. But if you don't like the taste, that's probably not going to help. You need to do something to it. Mix it up with some Ritz crackers and some peppers and some eggs and some seasoning and make some patties out of it or something like that. Or, mix it in with some rice or make a wonton out of it or something like that. You can't just... You got to bury it a little bit and give yourself like little doses and maybe develop a taste for it rather than just go full on for something that you might not like.
Oh man, homemade fish cakes, that is not my favorite. Those are a great thing for kids too, because I made some, I don't know what kind of fish it was, some kind of warm water species like bass or perch or something like that, and you don't have to worry about the bones with them by grinding it all up and putting it mixing it up with some different things, making little fish cakes. That was fun, and it tastes good.
Yeah. Those whitefish are nice too. There's so much more mild in flavor, and the ocean fish up here, like halibut's really good, super mild. Some people don't like it as much because there isn't much of a flavor at all. It's kind of people treat it like a chicken. You can do pretty much anything to it, but put it in a halibut enchilada, and it's unbelievable. Lingcod's really good, but again, whitefish, super versatile, and it's great. Salmon tends to have a little bit more of a flavor that some people like, some people don't. But just being able to know the difference and then having that experience with it rather than just be relying on, gosh, I don't know what I would eat if I didn't eat game meat and I didn't eat fish. It would just be beef and lettuce, which it's not too bad, but it's nice to have variety.
Yeah, I got myself a big old ribeye the other day because I wanted a ribeye. It was something different.
There you go. So it's getting pretty close. It's 7:20 your time, and you said you had was it a pork loin that you took off the Traeger?
Oh yeah. Family ate it. I'll go back and eat it in a little bit.
So you got you're batting cleanup here.
Yeah, it's a big pork lamb. There's a lot of cleanup to eat. Yes.
Nice. So that you can join your family for the late dinner if they're still around. Can you give me a little bit of a closer about where you want to go with the podcast? Any other thoughts, things that we missed, or gosh, we've been talking about food for the last 20 minutes. Anything else?
Yeah, no. Well, I appreciate you having me on, and it's good to connect with other Waypoint folks and trying to share resources. That's a big thing, and I think that's my main goal. Where the podcast is going is I probably had one of my biggest guests already, Jim Shockey. Not going to be able to top that. I do have one coming up here at the beginning of the year who, give a little hint, if you know anything, he just shot a world record. I'm not even going to tell you what species, but he's got multiple world records, and I don't know how he does it, but he's one of those guys that is not a TV personality, or he's just a hunter and has done a lot of articles and lots of things like that. So I won't get many big names like that or big guests like that are huge icons in the industry, and that's not who I'm looking for. I've really focused on being that average hunter. I have a regular job throughout the day, making a average hourly pay, and my goal is to connect with other hunters that are like-minded. I'm not a sponsored person. I don't write articles. I just chat about hunting and like to connect with the average hunter like myself, whether you're in Pennsylvania or Alaska or South Dakota or anywhere in between. So that's kind of my goal, is to connect and share a little bit of what I've learned and try to bring people on that know a lot more than me to have another education platform. And just like you're an educator. You teach for your reasons, and I'm in education for probably a pretty similar reason.
Mm-hmm.
So this is that same sort of deal. The classroom's just a little different.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun to talk to fellow people who are in the process of grinding. Once people have already made it, it's harder for them to kind of maybe recall what those difficult days were like, because they're not in them anymore. And they say, it's tough, it's difficult, and you got to battle through, and they've made it through. But hearing people that are like currently in it, like this is an extra thing that we do at cost, like we're still paying for it. It's funny to hear that really authentic sort of view, and it's pretty fun to connect with people for sure. But it is also fun to talk to some of those big names like you talked about. Jim Shockey, it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I screw up my hunting all the time. Absolutely. And I'm going to shoot like with my bow. If I can fill that tag, and it's just with a little 3x3 little whitetail, or I don't care. I'm not shooting big bucks necessarily. There's some decent ones here and there, but I don't shoot big bucks. If you look at, it doesn't matter. You look at some of those guys, it seems like they're always shooting big stuff and old stuff and going all over and traveling. And yeah, I'm getting to be a little bit more fortunate to be able to travel to Arizona, hunting out of state, something I didn't think was going to happen, but start a little side business and use that to fund some hunting, and just setting the budget for it. That's totally what I did, is set the budget for it and tried to plan that out and be able to diversify the things that I hunt. And I'm doing it on a very mild South Dakota budget. South Dakotans are not known for the high wages.
No. So, you are on the road system, which is nice. Whereas, some areas true. it's kind of tough to get around. My wife was contemplating getting a trad bow. Is that something that she should get?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I haven't touched mine in a couple of months because it's hunting season and I wasn't ready. But that was a really fun little start, and I'll pick it up again. I'll keep that rolling throughout the seasons. I'm not going to be a crazy trad bow hunter where that's all I do during bow seasons, rifle seasons, is carry that thing around. But it's a lot of fun to do in the yard for sure, and that was my main thing. Pick it up and challenge yourself with a whole new skill, and it's fun.
Yeah,
it was really fun.
It's a good hobby. Like when I was a kid, I used to shoot hoops all the time. Loved playing basketball, and now I don't play basketball anymore. And it's kind of nice to do something else.
Yeah, absolutely.
Competition against yourself. It's important.
Yep.
So,
Absolutely.
well, thanks again for being on here, man. Apologize for mispronouncing your name there at the beginning. Whitley, not Whitney. So,
yep.
Again, people can listen to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I'm assuming all those places everywhere.
Yep, everywhere. So
and then,
check out
if they wanted to put in for that bow, how do they submit their application or get their ticket or get their thing?
Yeah, so if you're on social media, the Western Hunting Hub is a great place to see those posts for that, and then you can click so the spelling's right. Or in my podcast show notes, there's the link as well, but I've just got Venmo and PayPal. Venmo is at Clint Whitley, and PayPal is clint.a.whitley@gmail.com. So they can just send $20 increments, wherever they want. Just do 20, or you could do 400. I don't care. If you did 400, you will probably have a really good chance at buying a $1,200 bow.
Nice. Awesome. Well, thanks again for being on here, man. Appreciate your time, and go enjoy the pork loin.
All right, sounds good. We'll chat later.
Take care, man.